My name is Alexander Finbow, and you are listening to the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book creators and supporters. It's October 16th, 2020. I'm John Swinimer. If you have a comment, criticism, or question, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Alexander Finbow. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. And don't forget to check out YouTube. Alexander is a publisher at Renegade Arts Entertainment, a comic and graphic novel publishing company in Alberta. He's a founding member of Panel One, as well as president of the Book Publishers Association of Alberta. He's been lucky enough to collaborate with a wide number of artists so far, including Nico Rudolph for When Bears Invade, William Simpson for Shades of Grey, Claude Saint-Eben for The Loxleys and Confederation, Al Davidson for Bloodlight, and many more. As a publisher, he's increasingly looking for stories with a distinct voice, stories that are different from what's already out there. During this interview, Alexander discusses Gothic Tales of Haunted Futures, available this month. With stories spanning time, galaxies, and spirits, Gothic Tales of Haunted Futures features 17 original stories, casting the indelible themes of Gothic romance forward in time, to imagined futures and tomorrow's afterlives. This collection follows the successful anthology Gothic Tales of Haunted Love, named one of Kirkus Review's best books of 2018, featuring all original comics curated by award-winning author and editor S.M. Biko. And as an extra bonus, Alexander spills the beans on how Duty, Honor, and Izat by Steve Purell and Christopher Rollins is being adapted into a movie. So without further ado, here's my chat with Alexander Finbow. So, Alexander Finbow, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
My pleasure, John. Lovely to talk to you again.
So the focus of our chat, then, is a new book from Renegade Arts Entertainment called Gothic Tales of Haunted Future. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the book, explain what it's all about.
Yeah, sure. So Gothic Tales of Haunted Futures is an anthology, a collection of comic book stories, and by a variety of writers and artists from America, Canada, and across the world. And it follows up the first anthology that Sam Biko put together, which was Haunted Tales of Gothic Love. So what this anthology is based around is the Gothic literary genre. And then it takes a what if you mix that genre with science fiction, with the future.
That's very intriguing. I guess the first one was so popular that it convinced Samantha to indulge and perhaps continue it, but look at a different angle, I guess, looking at the future. Yeah,
the Gothic romance is a very well-defined and a fun genre to play in. And the first book was so well received, and the creators really enjoyed working on it, that Sam was keen to explore a variation on that theme. And science fiction is a good genre to mash up with the Gothic romance literary tradition. And especially when you try and put a book together like this, which is really full of diverse storytelling voices, you get a really eclectic mix of story ideas, art styles, and voices coming through, which makes for a much more exciting and engaging collection, in my opinion, because quite often we're used to seeing the same voices telling these stories. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of surprises and stories going different directions to how you would normally expect those stories to end. So it's quite an exciting book to be part of from a publisher's point of view, because it's different. There's a lot of new and exciting stuff in there.
Now, you, as I mentioned before, are the publisher of the book, and Sam is the editor. So I'm wondering if you could explain a bit about the role that the editor and publisher play in putting a book like this together and then shepherding it to completion.
Yeah, of course. So this book is Sam's idea, and she was keen to curate the stories, bring about the genesis of the book, And she was keen to work with a publisher to help with the distribution and the nuts and bolts of getting everything out there and promoting it to the wider market. Sam was originally going to work with Bedside Press, but as you probably know, Bedside Press folded, and they're not around anymore. And I've known Sam for a number of years. I admire her work, and both as a writer and as an editor, she's a friend, and I like working with her. So when the opportunity came up to jump in and help the project and be a part of this exciting book, I thought this was a great fit for Renegade, and I was keen to take over. Sam had already got a lot of the work done launching the book through Kickstarter, which allowed her to bring money in to pay all the creators involved and to broaden the readership for a book like this. Because a lot of people use Kickstarter and they don't really use any other book platform. So I quite like the approach that she takes in going down the Kickstarter route and finding the readership that way, whilst we're looking for a more traditional comic book store and bookstore, library and school audience. So it's quite a good marriage, really, in terms of
so she had done pretty much most of the heavy lifting, I suppose. By the time you got to the book, she had already completed most of the, I guess, work in getting all the creators on board. And then with the Kickstarter, it's pretty much self-fulfilling, I guess, in a way you could say.
One of the great things of working with Sam is she's so organized and efficient. So she has wonderful spreadsheets, so I can always see where she's up to, where the creators are, with what pages they've done, what part of the production process everybody's up to. So that really helps from my point of view, because it cuts down a lot of the extra work that we would have to do at Renegade. Where we are able to help on a book like this a lot more is second opinions on editorial decisions that Sam might be making. We can discuss the format of the final printed book. We're of course organizing the print runs and negotiating with the printer and the fulfillment side of that, and then helping to get the Kickstarter. When the two stages of Kickstarters is the hard work of getting the campaign going and making it successful, and then once you have the finished book or the finished product, getting all the bits of it to all the people who've backed the campaign, and that can be extremely time consuming. So we're just about to hit that point in the next couple of days. We should all be getting piles of books, and then at Renegade, I think we're going to be sending out 140 different customer packages directly. Sam's doing some from her end, and then we have a fulfillment company in the States, Fun Again, who will be handling a lot of it too. So there's a lot of moving parts on the logistics side of it. So that's one of the things that we can help with when we come on board a book like this. And then of course supplying the bookstores, the distributors, Diamond, Raincoast, and turnaround in the UK.
It definitely is a lot of work, and it doesn't end there. From my understanding, the next part, once you have a physical book in your hand, it's trying to get the word of mouth out or get the word out about it. So I'm wondering, given this current situation we're in with this pandemic, how are you going about promoting this book? Are you looking at different avenues or different methods?
Looking at everything at the moment.
Right.
It's incredibly challenging, having lost the events like the comic convention and the bookstore events, even going to schools and doing talks at libraries. All of that stuff just being off the cards right now is so difficult. It means that every publisher, whether it's comics or books, and in fact most entertainment outlets, producers, are competing for the same media attention, whether it's podcasts like yourself, mainstream press, or alternative online press. We're all clamoring for coverage. So I know from talking to some of the reviewers and the journalists working in the space that they're just overwhelmed with the number of requests. So talking to people like yourself and on your wonderful podcast is really important to helping to spread the word. And more than ever, I want people who love what we do, what Sam does, they love any of the books, is to tell your friends and family, tell people, because that's the biggest persuader for people, is the opinion of someone whose opinion they trust and value, to push them into trying something out. So we're very much in a word of mouth campaign. Like we're overwhelmed with social media. and with advertising, and we just become very cynical and also tune it out a lot of the time. So the kind of advertising and publicity campaigns that we normally do are not very effective at the moment.
Right.
If we were a huge brand and we were, say, launching a new DC or Marvel book for a well-established character, then doing that kind of traditional campaign would probably still work, because everyone would be like, oh yeah, there's a new so-and-so book, I'll go and check that out. But for us, it's just noise. People just look at the noise and they don't want to see another advert for something they've never heard of. So trying to find those key voices, the supporters for a book, is vital. So hopefully someone will be listening to this and go, oh yeah, I really like the first Gothic Tales book. I'm going to check this one out, and then I'm going to tell my friends and all my family to get it too. That's the number one at the moment.
Well, it's definitely a worthwhile project, and I think you're going about it the right way, that's for sure. So I'm sure to get plenty of attention. So where do you recommend that people go to purchase the book? What methods or avenues should they try?
Well, the easiest thing to do is to go into your local or the online store for your local comic book store or your bookstore, independent bookstore, and they can get it from their distributor for you. That's the easiest thing to do. If you don't mind waiting a bit longer, you can order it from our website, renegadeartsentertainment.com, and we'll ship it off to you. And we can ship anywhere in the world, although it will take a bit longer if it's outside of North America. Libraries, you can get it digitally and in print from libraries in North America. That's pretty cool. And if you need to, then there's some bigger online retailers that will also have the book available. But I always say support your local store if you can. And the great thing with supporting your local store is you don't have to pay shipping.
There you go. That's very worthwhile. So since I have you on the line, I remember last time we talked, you said you had a lineup of upcoming books from Renegade Arts Entertainment. I wonder if you have anything more to add to that might be coming up in the next few weeks or months.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember exactly when we spoke. I think we were talking about Necromantic and Awkward Pause, if I remember. So since then, we've released A Slug Story by Hannah and Mandy Kuyawa, with art by Claude Sanoban and colour artwork by Laverne Konjersky and letters by Tele Esposito. The main creators on that book are Canadian. And it's a beautiful story, so lovingly told, about Mandy and Hannah's experience with a serious brain injury and being in hospital, uncertain of what the diagnosis is going to be and what the future holds for a child. And it's told in the kind of the style that you'd associate with the books of Raina Telgemeier and other middle grade graphic novelists. I think it's a great book for any child or parent who's dealing with hospital visits or loved ones that are in hospital for whatever reason, to give them a common language to talk about their experience. It's a very cathartic and moving book. I recommend that. It's out now in all great retail environments. So Gothic Tales will be with us in a couple of days. And then Bogart Creek Volume 2 by Derek Everden, who is a fantastic Canadian cartoonist, does single panel comics similar to the Far Side style. We put out the first volume of his work last year. Very funny, very dark humour, a lot of pop culture references in there to movies, TV shows, and sly digs at pop culture, which is just great. So that'll be in stores early November. We've just got the proofs back and it's looking great. And then VMT, which is William Simpson's return to vampire stories after working with Elaine Lee at Vertigo on Vamps. So he's putting the finishing touches to that at the moment with Laverne Konjersky on colours and Jim Campbell on letters. And that's going to be a real hard-hitting adult vampire story, and that should be out in time for Christmas. More details on our website and on William's website too. And then we're sorting out things for the next few years as well. So we're signing deals on a few very exciting graphic novels at the moment, which I can't really talk about until it's dry. But over the next few years, there's some fantastic stories coming out, particularly from Canadian storytellers.
Well, that's very exciting. So, lots to look forward to, that's for sure. And everyone can find out more about it online?
Yeah, check out renegadeartsentertainment.com. and we are on the social media platforms if you have any questions. Otherwise, yeah, check out the different creators because they're all pretty active on social media too. And listen
Sounds
to
good.
podcasts like this one.
There you go. Good stuff. Well, Alexander, those are all the questions I have for you. But is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
I guess the other bit of news is we did a book called Duty, Honor, and Izzat, which was out early 2019, by Stephen Purewell, who's a writer and historian in BC. And he is part of the Canadian Indian community, and he wanted to tell the story of the 450,000 Indian soldiers who fought alongside Canada and England in World War One. So we published a book with him that told their story through the eyes of a family in Canada reconnecting with their history and an Indian family. And the comic book story from that book is being adapted into a 25-minute movie at the moment. And they are shooting the World War II sequences in Kelowna and in near Vancouver over the next few weeks. And they have got a fantastic cast, costumes, vehicles, lots of stunts and special effects. And it's really exciting to see that story being adapted in such a Hollywood style. So that's pretty exciting. So if you haven't checked that book out, it's Duty, Honor, and Izzat by Stephen Purewell, illustrated by Christopher Rawlins and Claude Senoban. And it's a fantastic history story.
Thanks to Alexander for the chat. You can discover more about Renegade Arts Entertainment on Twitter at RenegadeArtsEnt and online at renegadeartsentertainment.com. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube, so please like and subscribe to the video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2020.